Hello and welcome to the OLM Issue Triage. Today is Thursday, July 8th. Let's take a look at some of the outstanding issues against the OLM repository. First issue we have up is CSV service account cluster permissions revoked too early. Which I think the reporter is saying that the RBAC for their operator that they're installing via OLM is not being removed. So this is around the cleanup. Yeah, sort of cleanup function that we have.
Is this like a case where we're deleting the CSV, which triggers garbage collection, and like a bunch of the RBAC gets deleted prior to the pod actually being fully terminated?
I think so. I mean, they're describing the code that I think we were looking at the other day in the cleanup. Where we clean up the owner references, essentially. I think that's what they're referring to. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it just seems like they've got they use leader election, and then the pod the pod is killed. Sorry, the RBAC is killed before the pod is actually finished shutting down. So I don't know that they'd be able to remove the lock.
Is this not an OLM issue and is a controller runtime issue? It doesn't look like.
Well, I think
it looks like they're having a problem with these logs are from a resource of their own, right? Or a
yeah, but I think
operator.
it's OLM is killing the pod.
OLM is killing the pod and also deleting all the other things related to the operator resources, probably to include the service account and the RBAC. So my guess is what's happening is we're getting rid of the RBAC and or the service account prior to the pod terminating.
Yeah, it seems like they're just asking, don't get rid of RBAC before the pod is gone.
Yeah, which makes sense to me.
So in this case, go ahead. Sorry. In this case, OLM should not just see those resources before the pod has been removed. So that's basically what we're saying the behavior should be.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know when being called. I think this is probably its own.
I think that's a different piece of logic, but you were
Oh, this is not what we're interested in? Okay.
the cleanup that's only on start, and that's for specific use cases of cleaning up problems, previous ways that OLM did owner references that were invalid or incorrect between OLM releases. And actually, there's a PR open dropping that code right now because those releases that had that problem are so old that it doesn't matter. I think the problem here is in GC for the CSVs and potentially GC during updates between different versions of the same CSV.
Yeah, this on the OM operator side. When you delete the CSV.
GC set. Do we know if we currently, like when we go through this cleanup step, if we basically we queue up the CSV for deletion, then when that gets removed, all the stuff that gets owner ref by the CSV also gets dropped, but we don't necessarily stipulate in what order, right? Is that?
Yeah, no, I think there's an order, but I don't think we actually thought about which one go first and go after. I don't think it just cleaned up one after the other in the sense that, well, CSV delete first and then anything associated with it get delete at the GC happening, including deployment, which is associated with the path, and the survey account created associated with that.
Is there, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we have like a combination of a finalizer and potentially just like owner references? Like some of the resources associated with CSV use a finalizer to get cleaned up, and then some of them are just when the CSV gets deleted, Kubernetes GC deletes anything that was owner ref by that CSV.
As far as I remember, we don't use finalizers anywhere.
Yeah, we don't use finalizer anywhere.
Okay, so in that case, then that means that we're kind of at the mercy of Kubernetes GC when we delete the CSV, or are we like?
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Seems like that would be the only way.
Yeah, so because this bucket associated specifically with the resources that being created when you create
As
a
far as I know,
CSV.
like Kubernetes GC isn't smart enough to know that, oh, these 7 things are owned by a CSV. I'm going to delete them in a certain order. It just shotguns the deletions out to all of them.
Yeah. We just probably need to check the deployment that a CSV that we're deleting is deleted before issuing. The problem is the owner references the CSV to the RBAC, not for the deployment to the RBAC.
Yeah, like this is required you to like manually, not manually, but like on purpose delete the deployment first before you can delete the CSV essentially.
Well,
because the CSV deletion will trigger the survey account being deleted. So you have to delete a child resource first before you delete the parent.
But that's not always possible, right? Like it's possible for a user to go in and just say like kubectl delete CSV. And in that case, like then ideally we would still handle this, right?
We could do something where RBAC at the namespace scope has own references to both the deployment and the CSVs. And then at the cluster scope, since we manage the GC there, we can have some say about the order of operations.
Yeah, that could work. Another way you could do it would be to just use a finalizer instead of relying on GC. And then if the finalizer is present, then go and do the underlying deletion the way you want. And then get rid of the finalizer.
My concern is with any of these approaches is the temperamentality of upgrade and adoption of existing resources to new stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Well, how does it work today then? So in an upgrade scenario, the CSV, the old CSV gets deleted and there's a new one that gets created. Is there like a period of time where there's two CSVs that exist and then?
There are, yeah.
Okay,
And then there's
yeah.
a ownership transfer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And only when the new CSV is successful, are the owner references removed to the older CSV? But we've had a lot of different bugs in the past around certain race conditions in that logic. So I just kind of want to be prudent of that while we fix this.
Well, I think we probably identified the problem. Do we need to come up with a solution here? Or can we just say, here's what the problem is and move on?
Yeah, I think we need to triage this further. Basically, there's I think it's bug. I don't know if we want to put into a release yet. Maybe we should have it on the backlog. It is a valid bug. I don't know what the priority is.
I would probably say we should do it sooner since it's seemingly it's not a great bug. I mean, it probably doesn't hit too many people, but it seems like something we should fix.
Yeah, I mean, there are of course workarounds. None of them are nice for users, but there are workarounds for operator authors to ensure, like, they could put a finalizer, they can like introspect the deployment and put a finalizer on it.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Joe, you think next release or?
Can we put it in the backlog and like do planning of when to do it later?
That's what I was sort of thinking. Since we don't really know what we're gonna do, it's kind of not triaged.
That's fine. The only concern I have is that the backlog is a little bit of a black hole.
Mhm.
So are we really going to go look at it? I guess my feeling is we can put it in one of these releases, and at least that reminds us. And if we get up to that release milestone and we're like, we still haven't looked at this yet, then we can just kick the can down the road. But at least it'll remind us to look at it again.
Fair enough.
Is anyone interested in assigning this to themselves? Or we can leave it if it's still sort of murky. We could leave it unassigned for now. Just put it in a release. Okay. If nobody's volunteering, let's go on to another issue. OLM fails to install package server with failed discovery check on GKE. Okay, they're using the latest upstream version. Script fails with package server fails for success. Okay, so it's an installation problem. Failed discovery check. So the possible that this is a race between when the CRD is installed.
I mean, we really need the CSV status to tell us.
Yes, it seems like the server is just like there's some kind of internal server error on.
Well, I mean, this could happen if the package server isn't ready yet or stood up, and there could be any number of reasons why the deployment is not ready or available or started. Like, so I think we definitely need to see the CSV status. In the meantime, we should definitely try to reproduce, but does anybody remember if we have a GitHub action that runs this, like against kind on release? Release checks. Install quick start 29 days ago.
Another potential troubleshooting step would be to ask them to try using the operator SDK OLM install and see if that works, just as another alternative to maybe get them going. And then if that does work, then that might give us a hint of something to look at in our install script. But I agree, it'd be helpful to see some of the underlying logs and data.
Is it install OLM or OLM?
Operator SDK OLM install. Which basically under the hood just downloads the CRDs and then everything else, and then applies them in a certain order, waiting for things to happen, which I think is generally what that install script does too. So I guess we'll see, but it's worth a shot.
Yeah, I'm looking at the job right now for this for cut release for 0.18.2, and there's an install quick start job that is successful. Let me post that here.
They're saying like on GKE, and it's possible maybe that this is a environment specific thing. Maybe GKE has like this some sort of extra controller or admission webhook or something running that catches it.
So they're saying GKE. Oh, okay. I misread this. Sorry. Thought it said kind, but it says Kubernetes cluster kind, and then it says GKE cluster. Yeah. Script works fine against a kind-based cluster. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So let's ask the reporter for some follow-up information. And we provided a workaround. I think this is probably a candidate for. This is sort of a bug, but it's also sort of support. I don't know. It's potentially a candidate for the backlog.
Well, if we don't know how special his GKE cluster is, I mean, we don't know what changes, what difference there is to it. The most we could do, I think, is reproduce, like run a GKE cluster of our own, like a vanilla one, and then try to install OLM this release on it as an attempt to reproduce. I think so long as that works, we're good. And then the rest is just trying to support this person rather than a bug.
Don't we run all those GCP scenarios as part of the OLM suite?
On GCP,
We do.
but that's not
GCP is
GKE.
different with GKE.
So, oh, it's not right. It's not GKE, right? It's just on vanilla.
Yeah.
GCP. Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Right. This is GKE cluster. Okay. So we don't really know. Right. So would anyone be interested in trying to install OLM on a GKE cluster? Do we have a? Does anyone have the GCP credentials?
I'm pretty sure I have access to a Google account for this. I'm not sure if I can actually spin up anything on the GKE side. It should allow me to get some VM, but not sure GKE. GKE is different service, so.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive you can get one through DPP, or at least you
Yeah,
should
we
have
can
been.
ask.
Yeah.
The thing this does bring up is a question of like what our support contract is for different Kubernetes distros. So like if we're going to make the claim that we run on GKE, then we need tests for GKE. But if we haven't made such claims, then I think the burden of support is lower for us. Like it should be best effort and not like something we prioritize.
I'm not aware of we saying we're working with GKE ever. We're working with GCP for sure, but GKE is different story.
I want to be careful when we say we work on GCP too, because OpenShift runs on GCP and we run on OpenShift on GCP.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That is work with OpenShift, that shipping along on GCP.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we can maybe get access to GKE cluster, we can maybe pull this into pull it in potentially into the next one and say, we want to try this. If we don't get access, then, or if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
I mean, this is another one that, so I kind of agree with Nick a little bit. Like, this is probably lower priority than testing something that we've already said should work, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try it and see if there's something obvious we can fix. Like, what we could potentially do is make this like a good first issue and say like, hey, if anybody is out there that wants to help contribute and has access to GKE and wants to run the install script, that'd be a great way to help out. And then it wouldn't be on us to take our time to do it. But if we ever do have time, this is also something that's probably pretty straightforward to do.
Yeah, it could be a nice task at this time. All right, so I didn't really. So we're pretty moving. Just put it in the backlog for now.
That seems fine. again, like from a practicality standpoint, how many people are out there looking at a repo, looking for good first issue and help wanted? Probably on the order of less than 10, maybe. I have no idea, to be honest, but it seems pretty low. So just throwing that out there is something that like this might just sit in the backlog forever if we're not looking at it.
Yeah, no, but let's see what the reporter might come back with some information. And I think issues like these, right, if we don't really have an explicit support contract with GKE, like,
If they come back, or is anybody going to be looking at this if there's a comment on it?
you want to keep looking into this? I mean, I can kind of try to see through. Is anyone else interested in this GKE thing? I guess I'll just assign it to myself and I'll just see what he comes back with. I wouldn't mind trying to spin up a cluster at some point, if it's possible. I'm trying it.
The difficult thing is it's paywalled. Like I just went and checked, like there's no trial without putting in your credit card information that I can see directly.
Right.
So it's like we have to go and see if we have some thing that our company or either CNCF provides to do that. But just some warning there.
All right. Well, we'll see. Maybe they'll come back with something just about it. And we'll keep it in the backlog. All right. Let's keep going. OLM generates duplicate service for webhooks if name does not match deployment. Okay.
Oh, so hi. So this, what they seem to be complaining about is that they've already provided a service for the webhook, and then OLM generates another service for the webhook. And the reason this happens this way is because when we implemented the webhook support in the CSV, a lot of that code was based on the same code used to that supports our API services. And the way the API services worked at that time was that you just define the ports and such for the API service, and then we would generate the service for that API service. The webhook code, I wanted to reuse as much of the API service code as possible. So right now it just generates a service the same way the API service code does. Now, I don't know how we can really change this behavior at this point. Operators using this, the webhook, sorry, other operators that define webhooks via their CSV rely on this service, right? So I don't really know how we could take this feature away. And so I would just say it's working as intended, in my opinion. I think if we go forward to, we think about the expanding what you can include in a bundle. At that point, yes, you just put the webhook and service inside the bundle. But until we get to that point, I don't know how we'd fix this in a backwards compatible way. I guess we could search if they provide a service, but I feel like that could be riddled with issues as well.
So this is not really a bug, is what you're describing, the way you see it?
Well, I recognize why they don't. Well, oh wait, but sorry, I recognize why they think this is an issue, but I don't know how we fix it. But he seems to say an additional under additional context that he's complaining that there's some unintuitive integration between the operator SDK and OLM. I would need to look into that and see what that friction is. Because if the SDK is putting the service in the bundle when you generate a webhook with it, then I think we shouldn't. The SDK shouldn't be doing that since it's YAML that isn't needed to be in the bundle. But I haven't built a webhook operator with the SDK, so I don't know what they're putting in the bundle when you define a webhook. I'm happy to follow up on this and see what they generate.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Yeah, I'm just going to say that the SKDLM behavior should be consistent.
Can you assign it to me?
Do you want to put this into the next release? As something that we kind of will triage? Or want to ask me? This seems more actionable, so I don't want to put it in the backlog. From what I can tell.
Yeah, I think you can assign it.
In 20.
And that way we won't lose it.
So 20, so it's near term, but not immediate.
Yeah, I think I can absolutely triage it before then, and then we can decide when we need to get a fix. And
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So yeah, this one. All right. Let's do some more on OLM before switching to registry. Okay. Deploy operator. All right. So this is the one I was looking at yesterday. I think this one, from what I gathered, was the reporter expects the catalogs to be globally scoped in different namespaces.
Oh God.
Although
I think we were talking about this right then, that this is just not our problem. I think I was talking to Ben actually, not you. And that he assuming he just deploying a catalog in the namespace and expect it to be global, which is not the case for the upstream OM. You need to be deploy that on the OM namespace to be global. So he installing the operator from a different namespace when the catalog is local for that specific name, specific to the other namespace.
yeah, that's
So it's not a bug.
like that behavior is not documented anywhere though.
Yeah, so that what I then was arguing about. We do mention the concept of global catalog sort. We do not mention what the global namespace is for the upstream OM, which in this case, the OM namespace.
Is this like another potential like V2 API kind of thing where like if you look at Cert Manager, there's such thing as a cluster issuer and then an issuer. And any cluster issuer is cluster wide and any issuer is namespace scoped. Like, do we want to change how that works so that it's more obvious to people?
Yeah, ideally, the concept of global or local should be on the catalog side of things. You know, it should not be a thing that OOM set inside itself, if you know what I mean. But that would require changing on the catalog API. But
Yes, so the prevailing like designs right now just have all of the API resources that we're defining, or sorry, all the new types for V2, if we're calling it that, are cluster scoped to try to do away with a lot of these problems, especially in resolution. So yeah. But also, Joe, exactly what you mentioned, it still leaves the option over to, if we want to namespace scope it, to drop down and have another resource that's not cluster scoped.
Cool, sounds good.
And I guess it's also worth mentioning, I think Kevin was showing me the other day that you can we're discussing this issue, you could customize it's configurable on the OLM deployment. So
yes, correct. There's flag when you're deploying the OOM catalog to decide what's the global namespace. By default, it's OOM.
yes, that's something else we did that. No, yeah, so I think this is definitely what I wanted to respond with. The only thing I'm confused about is that it seems like the namespace here is OLM based on what they're suggesting here. So this is from the subscription status, or
Dan, that first one looks like it's referring to the Operator Hub catalog, not their custom catalog.
okay, right? So it's referring to the. So it's probably not
Correct.
just-
That is from the subscription, and that's the default catalog that's been deployed with the upstream OOM.
Well, it looks like their subscription is targeting this DOS registry.
Yeah, which is missing.
Yeah.
Because it's not in that namespace. And I think Ben and I were saying that the message is correct. The only thing missing is there is the what namespace that thing is. So I think Ben and I were saying probably should put the namespace on it.
Well, it looks like it might be this KKK is the namespace.
Possibly, I'm not sure because we don't know what's there's no info on the subscription on the catalog, so I'm not sure if the KK is actually the namespace or not.
Well, I mean, it would have to be if we should just look at the log or the message generation and see what we're putting together. I bet you it's namespace / name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we're not aligning it, which we very well could be aligning the namespace as an information like leak prevention measure.
Yeah, so that's the namespace based on the code. It's not.
Could
It
could
may
just
not
be
be
that the
clear though.
subscription was created with the Operator Hub namespace or the Operator Hub catalog, and then they try to do like an upgrade test and flip it to a separate catalog, but it wasn't available, so the status still references the old one. That would be my first guess.
All right, so I think that the resolution here is probably just the doc work. I said I'd volunteer to do the doc work since I'm bug doc up anyway. It's part of my responsibilities to do stuff like this, so I can take this on. We can put this in the release since it's just patient. Okay, do you have anything else on this one, or seems like it's just basically missing doc work. Cool. So let's go on to registry. Well, we have a little bit of time here. So unknown version of OPM in upstream OPM builder. Okay. So this is it.
Are we just not including the .git directory?
Yeah, I assume that Docker file is just out of date.
Okay. So do we have anything else to add, or we can call this a bug, right? If it's just something to stay. Okay, so the problem is really just version it. We want to bring this into the next release. Seems like a small enough fix. Although we release registry more frequently. Yeah, this seems like maybe a good first issue or something.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know where we want to put it just yet. It seems sort of like super low priority. I suppose if it's just a version, but it's also important thing to have.
This may be related to just the whole work that we wanted to do related to improving our releases, where we wanted to use like Go Releaser and some of the stuff that pushes to Quay rather than having Quay run the build. So maybe there's something that like needs to inject those versions that only our scripts know about rather than something that's in the Docker file or something like that. I don't know. Seems like it could be related.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll go try and find that issue and comment and say that it's potentially related to that as well, which might be that 403, but if not, I'll look and find another one.
Oh, okay. All right. So it seems like we don't really know what to do with this one. In terms of sharing, we can always put it in this sort of release and then keep it out depending on what happens.
Do we just want to verify this first as step one in this release? I guess this is a good first issue for folks to do. So it would be nice to leave this around just for somebody to pick up.
Yeah. Seems like it is. Yeah, but I agree that it kind of maybe somebody would comment. So I guess this is okay for now. All right. Unless anyone has any other thoughts on this one. Moving on. Index export. Yeah, so these start to be, this is from, they start to be quite old. Submarine air operator only using this exporting correctly, exports correctly 2 versions. The one I query, the index taken from the index image. It has 3 versions. So it's taking 0.5.0 and 0.6.1. So in the index, there's 0.0.1 as well. So index export is this command exporting things from the index into the old package manifest style directory?
Correct.
So is this something that we even really support at this point?
That's I'm pretty sure that's one of the community operators maintainers. They like actively use this thing, whether we support it or not. I'm
Right.
assuming it's because they're actively using it. So we should probably at least take a cursory look.
Okay, so we don't have any plans to deprecate this command or anything like, I guess.
I mean, eventually it will go away, right? When we get rid of SQLite, it's just not, we're not going to have something that will do this anymore.
Right, right. So basically, she seems to be missing. Should I mention anything about it basically being not supported or whatever, or we just say we're going to look at it as is?
I don't know that I would look at, I don't know that I would mention that.
Okay.
I'm wondering, because it's not, this is fairly old, but I'm wondering if this is just because, I mean, we have to look at the index image to answer the question, but I'm wondering if it's because this bundle was stranded, right? Basically, they're saying that they ran export, it exported 2 bundles, but there's a third one that exists. I'm wondering if it's because it exists just because the operator bundle table still has this old version, even though it's not actually in any graph anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably get an answer by running index prune stranded and then see if it still returns the same thing.
So when it's no longer in the upgrade graph, so commands like export, ignore it essentially.
Yeah, I would say like if we need to investigate this, we need to take a look at the index. And it's prune stranded, not prune, which is slightly different semantics.
So index, so running this, and then you would see if it goes away. If this version goes away, then we know that this is the case.
Yeah, I think that that's most likely what's going on here. But I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, another thing is that just like running this blindly, I think this image is latest, right? So if you ran that today, you'd get something completely different than you would 6 months ago. Or whatever, so. I guess just put in the back out for now since it's not entirely clear. Kevin, do you want to look into this one or just kind of see what it comes back with since you seem to know
Yeah, go for it. You can assign it.
what's going on here? Okay, cool. All right, we have time for I think one more. Okay, so this is one opened by Chris Johnson. Yeah, no, it's in Brewster patch does not allow channel switching. It's triaged. Seems like Evan responded here, and that this isn't actionable. It seems like just asking for some support on the different ways we have to move through the different versions and the different channels. This is working as intended. Does anybody object if we close this issue? I don't see anything else to do.
I think it's basically a feature request at this point. But I also think that we're not gonna do it. Like, I think that we're just doing declarative config instead. And so maybe we can just close this one that way.
Agreed.
All right, so we managed to close one issue. Cool. With that, I think let's wrap up for today. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks everyone. Bye.